Sue Moroney.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. And look, I'm really very pleased to be able to stand and support Clause 8 of the Parana Parkland Vesting Bill, brought in the name of the Hamilton City Council. Sorry? Is the member opposite in the right debate? I'm not sure. I can talk about early childhood education if you'd like, but I was going to try and stick to the clause on this instance, although it would be nice to have the opportunity to talk about passenger train services from Hamilton to Auckland as well, but I'll leave that aside for now. Interjection, Mr. Chair. I was just responding to the interjection. Mr. Chair, but to come back to to Clause 8 the vesting of land, I'm particularly pleased to stand in support of this particular part of this bill, because I think that in the time since the Hamilton City Council drafted this legislation, that this has become even more pertinent. Because as my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway pointed out, it does actually ensure that the Hamilton City Council doesn't incur any further costs than is necessary in taking over and being vested this land, being vested by Parliament, actually, once this bill passes, being vested this land. And we wouldn't want them to incur any further costs, because since they drafted this bill, I think that the Hamilton City Council have found that their costs have been a real problem for them. They reported just last week that because of the recession, because of National's recession now, because it's double-dipped, and that must be because of what the national government hasn't done, that they now face a very precarious financial situation. It was reported just last week in the Waikato Times that as a result of there just being no growth in the economy in Hamilton, that the Hamilton City Council is actually facing, well, the member in the chair says it's not true. Sorry, the member who is responsible for this, in charge of the bill, thank you, is saying that that's not true. But look, it was there in black and white that they have lost $4 million in development contributions that they had budgeted for in this financial year. That's the Hamilton City Council alone. So what that tells us is that economic growth has dropped so badly in Hamilton that there is just no development going on there. And so while the Hamilton City Council had actually budgeted, knowing about the global recession that was taking place, they had put a budget forward of X amount of dollars, and that's fallen short by $4 million just with the development contribution alone. And then they also have identified that as a result of there being no money for families to spend in Hamilton, no extra money available to them, that as a result what had been budgeted to be bought in gate sales for the Waikato Stadium has fallen by $780,000 in just one financial year. Now that tells us a story about ordinary families just not being able to spare that $20 or $25 to go to the rugby match because things are so stretched on that front. So it's no wonder, and really important, that this Parliament, because of those circumstances, supports this part of the bill where we make sure, or the drafters of the bill, and I must congratulate those who did draft the bill. They've done a very good job on it. I'm actually referring to the officials, Mr. Bennett, even though, if you did actually pen this yourself, I apologise and withdraw that, and would want to congratulate you if you actually did put pen to paper and actually draft this yourself. I suspect, though, that it was the officials. Because there has been little in this bill that has become controversial, and I think that's a result of good drafting. However, we do need to really support this because of the terrible financial situation that the Hamilton City Council has found itself in because of the lack of economic growth in our region and in our city. And I think that does have to come back to an absolute lack of a plan by the current government, that we do have families really stretched. They can't afford to go to the rugby matches, therefore the funding's fallen, and therefore that's why it's so important that we make sure that there are no additional costs that are unnecessary for the Hamilton City Council to have to try and cover off in their budget this year. Because of course we know that if there were gift duties to be paid on this piece of land, and if there was GST to be paid on it, that would come back on the ratepayer.